So as many of you are probably aware, Final Fantasy Type-0 was released on Steam a couple of weeks ago, and I finally have had a chance to sit down and really have a couple of good play sessions with it, and I thought I would give my impressions to you guys. So let's get started with the presentation. That includes things like the story, the music and sound design, the graphics, everything that goes into the presentation of the game. I can see what they were trying to do with the tone in this game, but here's the problem I have with it. If you're going to try and set up your story, establish your story right off the bat as this is a world where there are real consequences. Not that it's too violent or anything like that. Because I think that that's fine. If you want to make something really bloody and really violent to set your tone, you can do that. That's fine. That's not the problem I have. The problem I have is that they're trying to get some kind of emotional grab from me without earning it. See, they give me a scene with a character I know nothing about. I have not been introduced to this character. I know nothing about him at all. And, his chocobo as well. I'm just meeting these people, and they have this death scene that is dragged out over the course of probably close to 10 minutes. And it keeps fading out and then coming back to it again, and then it'll go to a slowed fade and it comes back to it again. It's just going on and on and on and on. It's even worse than the end of Return of the King, how that movie kept fading out and faking you out oh, that's the end of the movie, and then they come back and have another 15-minute slow motion sequence, and then they would go fade out again. They do that, but they do that at the very beginning of this game with a character I don't know, I have no emotional attachment to, and they're trying to get me into this scene. It's oh, see this cute chocobo? We're gonna kill off this cute chocobo. And this guy, they're gonna have this agonizing, horrible, long death. That cannot have any emotional value for me as a viewer, because I don't know this character. It feels like a really cheap tactic to try and be this is super hardcore. This is a world where consequences are real and people are gonna die and chocobos can even die. Not even the chocobos are safe, and it's really really intense and emotional place. And it's this other character seems to care, Ace, which is one of the playable characters in the game. But see, I don't know what Ace's relationship is to this guy, and they still haven't explained it. I've been playing the game for about 10 hours now, and they finally have kind of touched on it a bit, where they were Ace personally asked for this kid, during this battle, but I still don't know what their relationship is, Ace and this kid. There's another character named Machina, who apparently is brothers with this guy. But we don't know why Ace asked for it. I mean, maybe that's something that'll come later in the game. But I feel like the tone of this game is still kind of all over the place. The voice acting.
If only I had known you were here, Machina, I would have tried to get in touch with you. I would have. I can't believe we kept missing each other for 2 months. You two actually knew each other before coming here?
Again, I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but voice acting for me has killed a lot of video games, especially Japanese games. Final Fantasy X, a lot of my biggest problem in that game is the voice acting, and it's not that they have bad voice actors, it's that when people are localizing Japanese games, and they're giving direction for how the voice actors should say something, they aren't localizing that part of it, if it makes sense. They're localizing maybe the phraseology, changing the words a little bit so that they make more sense in English or whatever, but they're still trying to speak with the same timbre and the same flow as the Japanese a lot of times, and that feels very awkward and weird in English.
Oh, I have a special message on my comm.
Special message?
Yes. It appears that the Moogle is calling us all to a meeting.
So let's go back to the classroom and ask the Moogle what it's about.
In this game, a lot of the voice acting feels like that. In most Final Fantasy games, that's how the voice acting ends up feeling to me. And, you know, it's not that we're incapable of doing this. There are several Japanese games that have voice acting in them that I feel are really good. First example that comes to my mind is Fire Emblem Awakening.
That's the brand of the egg salt. Lucina. You deserved better from me than one sword in a world of troubles. I'm sorry.
The voice acting in that game is phenomenal. So it's not like it's impossible for an English localization to do Japanese dialogue well. Graphically, the game looks okay. I mean, it's not going to impress any compared to any other console release that's come out recently, or any PC release, a major PC release that's come out recently. You know, and that doesn't bother me so much. You know, basically increasing the resolution of the textures and just of the display itself is good enough for me. The problem I have with this game, and maybe this fits more into game mechanics than anything else, is the way the game plays, in terms of how it feels and looks. Like, I know a lot of people complained, especially a lot of critics complained about the camera in this game, and in the Steam copy, like on Steam, it says something about like improved camera as one of the features, like one of the reasons you should buy this game. You know, improved camera. Obviously, they understood that people were complaining a lot about the camera. It's still horrible. It's one of the worst camera systems I have ever played in a video game in my entire life. And so what I've ended up having to do is that I've ended up having to not lock on to enemies in order to be able to keep my bearings. But the problem with that is that they've incorporated this kind of interesting system into the game where when you wait for enemies to either attack or maybe when they're reloading, like there are certain like phases of the enemy's attacks where this red circle will come on them, and it gives you a very brief moment to do like an instant kill attack. There's also another one that'll come up as like a yellow circle, and if you attack right at that moment, you'll do like tons of damage. You can't pull off those attacks when you're not locked on. So that whole part of the game is something that I'm not really going to get to take advantage of. That won't be able to be part of my strategy for fighting, because unless I'm just fighting one enemy, like a boss. But if I'm fighting multiple enemies and I'm going to be switching around, you know, who I'm locked on, I can't do it. I can't do it. The camera is so bad, especially in tight quarters, that it's impossible to play the game that way for me. So that kind of sucks. Also, I've said in the past here on the channel that I really like action-based RPGs, you know, where you can move the character in real time and attack in real time. The problem with this game, well, let's talk about what I like about it first. What I like about it a lot is that you can switch characters in your party at any time by pressing either right or left on the D-pad. So you're in battle and you're playing as this character, you can switch to this character anytime you want in the battle. That's a really good thing. That's a really good idea. It'll give you, you know, a chance, I would hope, to be able to strategize, and maybe more strategy will come into the game later. That's what I'm hoping. But right now, unfortunately, they don't really have distinct roles, these characters. They kind of are interchangeable. It's more or less just this guy has a quicker attack speed and his attacks do less damage, and this guy has a slower attack speed but his attacks do more damage. This this character can do long-range attacks and this character can only do melee attacks. I don't know. They seem to be interchangeable for the most part, unless there's an enemy like up in a rafter somewhere you can't reach with melee. You got to switch over to the long-range guy. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that either. And the other thing that bothers me about this game is that it's still very, very obvious in the game's design that this was a PSP game. And, you know, for the most part, that's fine with me, because I'm just glad to have gotten the game anyways. It's like, it doesn't matter if a game was on PSP or whatever console. If it's a good game, it's a good game. And I guess my problem is mostly with, not so much with, like, the linearity of it and how small the maps are and stuff like that. Because that kind of feels really similar to Crisis Core, honestly, and it was limited by its platform. What I don't like is that there is no like ramp, no gradient in the movement speed. That kind of drives me crazy. It's like you either are standing still or you are running at full speed, and some of these characters are really fast. And so when you're in close quarters, or even just like at the school wanting to like talk to people, sometimes it can be kind of hard to just move a little bit, or obviously impossible to move slowly, to just walk up to something and examine it, or walk up to someone and talk to them. You have to be like running at full speed all the time. I really don't understand why they couldn't have created a gradient for movement speed. It's kind of a small grievance, but I really disappointed that they didn't find a way to do that. Lastly, I kind of want to talk about I just finished a part the other day where they have like these big battle sequences on the world map. Well, let's talk about world map first. So I wasn't really enjoying this game very much. You know, I was feeling really disappointed when I was playing it. And then I got out to the world map and I was like, okay, sweet. They have a world map in a Final Fantasy game again. It's so awesome. That's all I want, man. Well, it's not all I want, but it's one of the major things I want in Final Fantasy. I want a world map. And you know, it's like, awesome. I'm going to be able to, you know, run around on a world map. This is so cool. This feels like Final Fantasy to me. And then I got into a random battle, and I was like, oh my gosh, you can get into random battles on the world map. That's so cool. And that's when my enjoyment of the game started to increase. My feelings were kind of like dropping into negativity all the way up to that point where I hit the world map, and now they have started to go up and up and up and up and up again. So I'm starting to enjoy the game more. But they have these like battle sequences. It reminds me a little bit of Suikoden in a way, but they have these kind of optional big battle sequences you can take part in. I don't totally understand it right now still. I was kind of fumbling my way through this first one, but I like the idea. I'm not sure if I like the execution yet, because I'm not sure if I'm doing it right, first of all, and second of all, if I've totally understood all of the different mechanics that go into it. There's a possibility that I'm missing something important in terms of like the strategy and maybe even like something functional, like something I haven't realized I can do yet. But, you know, it was a little bit frustrating to me because I was trying to do something that wasn't working, and I kind of, you know, definition of insanity is obviously, you know, you think you'll get a different result by doing the same thing. So I kept doing the same thing, and I was, you know, becoming frustrated by that. So I need to try something different, obviously. But I love the idea. I love the idea of those big battles on the world map. And I feel like that could end up being really fun and maybe even really strategic down the line. A part of the game that's the part of the game I've enjoyed the most, honestly, so far. And so you're on this world map doing battles, and then you kind of like go in and invade these different like towns and forts and things. That whole function of the game, that whole side of its gameplay, despite the fact that I had some problems with it, I really enjoyed that. And that was kind of the last thing I did in the game when I left off on my last playthrough, so that kind of ended on a high note there. with like some hope and some potential for that gameplay mechanic. I'm looking forward to doing more of that and kind of figuring that out. So, anyways, those are kind of my initial thoughts. I'd say overall I've been real disappointed with the game so far. I will keep you guys updated on my thoughts on it as I continue to play it, and I will eventually do a review for this game. I've been recording all my footage and everything. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think of Final Fantasy Type-0 so far, if you've played it. Maybe give me some ideas on ways that I can resolve some of my issues. How are you guys getting around the camera problem, for instance? How are you guys enjoying the story and the characters? Show me why I'm wrong. I'd like to hear your opinions. I'd like to hear, what you guys are thinking and feeling about the game. Give me a different perspective that maybe can help me to enjoy the game more. And until next time, have a nice day.